MeMonster.
Chapter 246. When I was sent out to Jinho, it seemed anything had been preparing to tackle beyond the 50th floor. Upon returning to the waiting room, the squad's maintenance was nearly complete. The repairs on the damaged airships were finished perfectly, and the spots left by the heroes who died on the 50th floor had been filled. Now, even without me, Taunia could function to some degree. It felt strange when I heard the news that Jenna, Velkist, and the rest of the first party had been promoted to 5-star status. The promotion level for 5-star is 55. The first party members seemed to have gained the necessary experience by repeatedly clearing the 51st floor. Since the 51st floor was purely a monster-only leveling stage, it made sense. I too had met the 5-star promotion requirements by massacring monsters on the 51st floor under anything's orders. Even after a 5-star promotion, one doesn't suddenly become drastically stronger. Only the limits of stats, skills, and engravings increase. Thus, unless one pushes their abilities to the limit, there's not much difference from a 4-star. However, I didn't gain any notable clues during this 5-star promotion. The scene that surfaced this time wasn't of Taunia before its downfall, nor was it of Han Israt, who was supposed to come here in my stead. Instead, it was of me being abandoned by my parents. I thought I'd forgotten it all. The fact that my past memories emerged during the promotion ceremony suggested that I and that guy are gradually blending. Although it was a memory that didn't stir much emotion after all these years, it still didn't feel good. I watched the scene unfold before me indifferently. Ta-da! Congratulations, Master. The forgotten memory of a hero awakens. Han, 5-star promotion complete. You've reached 5-star status. The illustration is updated. The level and skill cap increase. The hero's second engraving is unlocked. Thus, I succeeded in promoting to 5-star. The most noteworthy aspect was that my second engraving slot had been unlocked. After clearing the 50th floor, Gugu-Khan had been pestering me multiple times a day, telling me to hurry up and reach 5-star. Apparently, I needed to at least be 5-star to fully harness the power of the Black Dragon's blood. Gugu. On the 4th floor of the training center, in the private practice room, Gugu-Khan was pecking at a feed tray. Are you ready? While furiously pecking at the feed, Gugu-Khan spoke to me. Ready for what? To give up being human. Peck, peck, peck. With sharp pecks, corn kernels flew out of the feed tray. After finishing its meal, Gugu-Khan spread its wings and looked at me. Ready? Come to think of it, this guy had mentioned it before. The ability I'm using isn't something a normal human can handle. Gugu-Khan had said that if I wasn't born with a special constitution, I would have been corrupted a long time ago. Even Velkist had to undergo a special procedure from the Asinus family to wield his power. Your talent is certainly impressive. For a mere human to endure the power of a transcendent, if you had shown even the slightest gap, I would have taken over your body immediately. But I didn't even expect it to be this much. Gugu-Khan waddled its fat bottom as it approached me. But it's still not enough. It's woefully lacking. Every time you fight, you're on the brink of death. Can you even call such an ability power? Gugu-Khan closed its beak. Is it talking about ascend? No. I shook my head. Not just ascend, which boosts output at the cost of damaging my body, but even its derivative, Soul Blade Fusion, was a skill that eroded the body. The Black Dragon's blood also increased the contamination level as soon as it activated. As Gugu-Khan said, I was shouldering significant risks every time I fought. I'd been thinking about it. To become stronger under the same conditions, I had to take risks. High risk, high reward. In Pick Me Up, it was a given, but my risk level had become too extreme. The probability of dying from penalties was higher than being killed by the enemy. Should I reduce the intensity of my skills? There was a way. The power would drop slightly, but the safety would increase exponentially. I wouldn't have to use my skills with the mindset of facing death every time. Reduce your power? You're already lacking strength by tenfold, and you're thinking of weakening it even more? Gugu Khan opened its beak. Sometimes it spoke as if it was reading my thoughts. Then what should I do? You need to create a body that can handle your power. I'm already doing that. I've been working on increasing my body's durability ever since I acquired Ascend. The only problem was it wasn't fast enough to keep up with my power. I know I'm not in the best condition. It'll take at least a month to improve. I'll have to work on skill combinations while progressing through the 50th floor section. And you think you can kill the Emperor like that? I frowned. It hit right where it hurt. Well, that's true. According to my calculations, the Emperor would appear as the boss on the 80th floor. But the level of that guy I saw on the 50th floor was 354. It far exceeded the typical boss level. Damn it. Anything is planning to steadily climb the tower. The issue was whether I could become strong enough to face him head-on before we reached the 80th floor. Eventually, that guy would appear as the biggest obstacle in clearing the tower. So I need to become even stronger. Do you have a way? Gugu Khan waddled its fat bottom. I made it like this, but I really wish I could change its appearance. The resolve to give up being human to create a body that can handle power. I looked down at Gugu Khan. I think I know what it's suggesting. It's asking me to change my race. In Pick Me Up, there was a rare event where you could change the race of a hero. Velkist's procedure from the Asena's family was one example. Of course, this was much rarer than skill awakening or breaking limits. Giving up being human, I chuckled. This kind of event had so many variables, and each case was so unique that I couldn't research it properly. How do I do it? Should I enter an exploration dungeon? No need for that. Just sit in that chair over there and close your eyes. Gugu Khan pointed at a metal chair in the corner of the practice room. All I have to do is sit there? Yes. This smells fishy. I walked over to the chair. I'd known for a while that this guy had some hidden agenda. Otherwise, it wouldn't have tried to take over my body out of the blue. It's not because it doesn't want to be trapped here, right? That can't be. If that were the case, it wouldn't be so persistent. Although I'd taken some precautions, I couldn't let my guard down. I took a deep breath and leaned back in the chair. Close your eyes. I decided to play along and closed my eyes. Darkness filled my vision. Well, that was obvious, since my eyelids were shut. What's supposed to...
Suddenly, the world wrapped in darkness shifted. I opened my eyes. The training tools and dummies in the practice room were gone, replaced by a desolate plain. The air was dry, carrying the scent of dead leaves, and the twilight sun shone down on the barren land. Thousands of years ago, we made a contract with the Emperor. When a crisis befell Taunia, we swore to combine our strengths to save this place. Don't worry, Han. You've met the qualifications. In front of me stood a man. Black flames surrounded him, and 3 pairs of wings fluttered behind his back. A pitch-black spear and jet-black armor. I had seen this figure in a descent dungeon before. Halcyon Reos, the true form of Gugu Khan, one of the 4 ancient transcendent species in Taunia. This is the gap between dimensions. It's also part of your mental world. Your mastery of the Black Dragon's blood has grown, allowing it to happen. You'll be visiting this place more often from now on, so take a good look around. I thought I'd been through a lot since arriving in Taunia, but this was something I couldn't have imagined. So, are you going to make me stronger? Don't you think it's time to renew our contract? The man grinned. I sighed. What are the terms? Complete Taunia's mission to the end. Taunia's mission? So I can't leave this place? If you decide to betray that loyalty, Halcyone's eyes gleamed darkly, you won't meet a pleasant fate. If you accept the contract, I will implant the essence of a dragon within you. I believe you are now capable of withstanding it. Of course, once you accept my power, you won't be able to revert to your previous state. So I won't be able to undo the engraving? Even if I find a more suitable engraving later, I won't be able to change it? Moreover, there would likely be conditions attached to using the engraving, like how Weary-young is bound by the oath. Just as Weary-young bound by the oath can't fully utilize her power outside of Murion, this contract would bind me to Taunia as well. It's your choice, Han. Whether you accept or not is entirely up to you. The flames surrounding Halcyon's body surged upward. His power was beyond anything I had encountered before. I had known this from the start. After all, even with all the weapons of Niflheim brought to bear, we couldn't leave a scratch on him. His power was likely far beyond that of any engraving wielded by the first-party members of Niflheim. It might even surpass that. I had been growing increasingly aware of the untapped potential within the Black Dragon's blood as I used it. So this is why Halcyon waited for me to reach 5-star status. It's a 2-slot engraving. I had planned on securing a decent engraving, but this outcome far exceeded my expectations. I shrugged and answered, "Then let's get it over with. I need to test it out as soon as I get back." I expected you to answer that way. Halcyon twisted his lips into a smirk. One last question. Are you confident you won't regret this decision? From this point on, you won't be able to escape from Taunia. You won't leave until everything is finished. I already made up my mind. Stop with the needless warnings. I clenched my fist. If I had intended to run, I would have gone back to Niflheim long ago. But I had already crossed the 50th floor. Through my mistakes, I had caused the deaths of many heroes, including Eloka and Edis. Since I had crossed that line, it was my responsibility to see it through. I won't run. Just as El Cid ultimately conquered Dorado, I will achieve the same. Then I'll go home. I pledge on your heart. Halcyon pointed the tip of his spear at me. Crack! A crimson bolt of lightning leapt from his spear, piercing through the left side of my chest. Surprisingly, there was no pain. Until you reach the end of your destiny, you will be unable to leave Taunia. Do you swear to fulfill this contract? And in return, power. This wasn't just a typical high-risk, high-reward situation. It was the promise of immense strength in exchange for being bound to this place. Should you break your oath, my spear will pierce your heart. But if you keep your promise, we will grant you immeasurable power. I narrowed my eyes. Beyond Halcyon's back, in the endless expanse of the plain, massive shadows were rising. I could only make out their silhouettes, unable to discern their true forms. Were they other transcendent species? They watched me from beyond the shadows. You're really trying to sell it, aren't you? It's almost like if I follow your terms, I'll become invincible. You're not wrong, if you can fully forge a contract with us. So they expect me to eventually form contracts with all of them. If each engraving took up 2 slots, having 3 engravings would require a minimum of 6 slots. Even with a 6-star promotion, I'd only have 3 available slots. To unlock the full potential of this power, I'd need to reach 7-star status, where there are no slot limitations. What a sweet-talking salesman. I clicked my tongue. Halcyon was staring at me with a clear gaze. If I accepted his offer, I'd become a true monster, a genuine monster imbued with the power of the 4 great clans, a transformation far more potent than the procedure Velkist underwent. So this is what he meant by having the resolve to abandon my humanity. The only comfort in all this is that if I ever returned to Earth, all of my skills and engravings would disappear. I had confirmed that much directly from Isel. But if I remained here, I had no idea what would happen. I let out a small chuckle and spoke.
Chapter 247. I opened my eyes. A dull, metallic wall came into view. Various training tools were scattered haphazardly around the room. I was slumped in a steel chair, propped up in a corner. Is it over? I remembered Halcyon reaching out to me, the crimson flames engulfing me. After that, my memory was a complete blank, as if the film had cut out. Coo! Coo! A pigeon was leisurely pecking at food beneath my feet. I blinked and opened my eyes again. Nothing much seemed to have changed. The only notable difference was a system message hovering in my field of vision. Slowly, I began reading the words in the hologram. It was the log from the time of a breakthrough. I'd seen it just once before, back on the 35th floor. The messages continued to appear without stopping. Ding! Master, Han 5-star's body is undergoing drastic changes. Is this a sign of transformation? Tips. In very rare cases, a hero may experience an awakening event. Imprint evolution. The imprint of Hero Han 5-star, True Black Dragon's Blood S, has evolved to a higher grade. New traits and abilities have been added. Check the hero's status. Skill awakening. True Black Dragon's Blood has begun resonating with Hero Han 5-star's skills. The Ascend and Invincibility skills of Hero Han 5-star have merged into a new skill. The Soul Blade Spirit of Hero Han 5-star. The windows announcing skill awakenings continued endlessly. There were too many changes to track easily. As the grade of the Black Dragon's Blood increased, most of my skills either merged or evolved. I'd experienced minor changes while mastering the Black Dragon's Blood before, but never anything like this, a complete overhaul. Anything would be shocked. She wasn't online at the moment. Just thinking about how to keep this hidden from her was starting to give me a headache. Well, it wasn't the first time something like this had happened. She might just let it slide. Let's see. I stood up from the chair. Though the log showed tremendous changes, I hadn't fully felt them yet. Status window. I mumbled lightly and the hologram popped up. Han Israt, 5-star, level 55, XP 31,550, class Dragon Slayer, Dragonian, strength 125, 125, intelligence 10, 10, health 118, 118, agility 113, 113. Skills: intermediate swordsmanship level 10, insight level 10, fire resistance level 3, Dragon Slayer level 5. A lot had changed. I never chose the Dragon Slayer class. I had been forcibly promoted without even noticing, and my skill window, which should have been filled to the brim, was now completely clean. Imprint slots, 2 out of 2. 1, 2. Demon Dragon Spirit, SS-, level 1. The spirit of a demon that once trampled and ruled over a world in ancient times. Its power can alter the very essence of existence. Unique Skill 1, Demonization. Unique Skill 2, Black Dominator Sword. Note: bound by the Black Dragon's contract, the imprint cannot be removed by any means, and if the hero's territory is changed, the hero will permanently vanish. I furrowed my brow. It trampled and ruled over a world and can change the essence of existence? Just reading the description was chilling. The Black Dragon's contract. It must be the price Halcyon spoke of for this power. From now on, I could no longer switch to a different waiting room than Townia. If I did, I'd be punished for breaking the contract and die instantly. The path behind me had vanished. Overall, the skill and imprint windows had been simplified. Ascend and Soul Blade Fusion, which had been my companions until now, seemed to have been consolidated into the new unique skills of Demon Dragon Spirit, Demonization, and Black Dominator Sword. I don't really feel different yet. My species had definitely changed, but at the moment I couldn't tell the difference from when I was still human. "Can you feel the power?" The pigeon Gugu-kan, who had been pecking at food nonstop, looked up at me. I scratched my head. "Not really. It seems I need to conduct a trial run." I drew the Bifrost from the sheath hanging at my waist. The familiar weight settled into my hands. So Ascend has merged with the Black Dragon scales along with Invincibility. It was a skill that I had honed to withstand the recoil of Ascend. Now, the three skills had merged into a higher skill, Demonization. Soul Blade Fusion, Dragon Slayer, and other various skills combined to form the Black Dominator sword. I gripped the hilt tightly and flipped the switch in my mind. It was the sensation of activating Ascend. Crack! I heard the sound of bones and joints dislocating in my ears, the familiar ritual that came with every use of Ascend. But this time, there was no pain, nor did I feel the usual crushing pressure as if my body was being burned alive. Instead, only a cold sensation spread through one side of my chest. I turned my gaze. At that moment, I saw my reflection in the drawn blade of Bifrost. The first thing I noticed was the vertical slit-shaped black pupils in my eyes. Han 5-star has entered a state of demonization. Shh. Tearing through my pale skin, pitch-black scales began to emerge. Crackle, crackle. Crimson lightning arced from the scales. This isn't human. The image of myself reflected in the blade looked like a monster. I sheathed Bifrost. Han 5-star has exited the demonization state. In an instant, I was back to my human form. Gugu-kan approached me. "Now you can feel it, can you?" "A little. I warned you, once you start, there's no turning back. In terms of pure power, that Velkist fellow isn't even a tenth of what you are now. You've become something completely apart from other humans. You'll also have to learn how to suppress this power if you don't want to accidentally kill your comrades." Is the gap that large? The kid who borrows the power of the White Dragon, the Archer Girl, and the Beast Tribe kid, they might be able to follow in your footsteps, at least to your heels. I sighed. The strong are always lonely. I'm not too fond of getting strong alone. Team play is more efficient. That's what I knew to be true. I'd been raising Niflheimer's first party evenly for that reason. Then why not grow strong enough to ignore such petty concerns of efficiency? Don't be foolish. The humans here will never be able to catch up to you. The balance was broken the moment you awakened me. You asked for power, and I gave it to you. What's all the complaints? Tisk tisk. Gugu-kan circled around me as he spoke. Soon you'll become a complete being, needing no one's help. Only then will you be able to defeat that prince. A complete being? Do I really need to explain? You already know. I crossed my arms. I could guess what he meant. A hero capable of executing missions solo, reconnaissance and analysis, combat, assassination, offense, defense, close quarters and long-range battles, being capable of all of it alone. A one-man army. In my knowledge, there were only two heroes capable of that. First, Elcid, the number 1 ranked hero, and second, Niflheimer Submaster, Ceres.
Other members of the first party had their own vulnerabilities in one or two areas. Take Rygian, for example. He was nearly invincible in duels, but lacked efficiency in large-scale battles. Nihaku was the opposite. Urnit and Mudin had their own exploitable points as well. Ceres had none of those weaknesses. She was nearly perfect in every aspect. Because I had designed her that way, she could perform at her best in any environment. So I'm supposed to become like that? That Ceres turned out the way she did was almost a stroke of luck, even for me. I wasn't sure I could pull it off again, even if I tried 100 times. Are you thinking of backing out now, after coming this far? I was just lost in thought. I smirked. If Halkian's words were true, a gap was now opening between me and the rest of the first party,
one they might never bridge. Of course, they could eventually catch up if they had enough time, but I didn't have that luxury. It doesn't matter. All I needed was to climb to the 100th floor. Then I'd finally part ways with this wretched place. All you need to do is focus on growing stronger. Halcyon scoffed, staring at me. The pigeon's brown eyes narrowed, and suddenly a wave of dizziness washed over me. It was a strange but familiar feeling. I opened my eyes. The barren wasteland I had seen earlier stretched out before me again. Now that we're bound by contract, I will make you the strongest in Townia. My spear is aimed at you. According to him, this place was a shared mental space, born from the melding of my mind with Halcyon's, so it wasn't bound by the laws of physics. He said I'd better get used to coming here. I planted both feet firmly on the ground. Halcyon smiled lightly, still pointing the spear at me. Time here flows dozens of times slower than in Mobius. You don't need to worry about the outside world. Everything here is happening within your consciousness. In this place, even if you die, you can be revived countless times. Do you understand what I'm saying? There was no need to beat around the bush. I immediately drew my sword from its sheath. My power is an invincible shield and an unstoppable spear. It can deflect anything and pierce everything. I'll teach you the true way to use the Black Dragon's blood. I don't want to rely on that power too much. I smirked, twirling my sword. I'd seen plenty of people fall apart relying only on their imprints. While the power of this imprint is incredible, I couldn't depend on it alone. Its purpose was to aid my sword in cutting my enemy's throat more efficiently. It should never become the master. Advanced swordsmanship is within reach. I was only one step away from reaching the level of a master. How amusing! You reject my power. I'm not rejecting it. I'll use it when I need it as a useful tool. A tool, huh? I wonder how long you'll hold on to that notion. Crack! An immense pressure descended on me, causing me to stagger. It felt like a massive steel beam was pressing down on my head. My feet sank deep into the ground. I'll start with 10 times the usual force. Do as you like. This much isn't too hard. I was used to training with dozens of kilograms of sandbags strapped to me. How many times will we fight? 100? Maybe even more? I'd probably start to understand a bit of what Aaron felt like. What's important is becoming the master of this power, not its slave. How I use this strength is up to me. No matter how powerful the skills and imprints may be, in the end, it was always the hero wielding them. I had seen countless heroes crumble because they were intoxicated by their abilities. An invincible power, huh? There's no such thing. I stood ready, prepared to swing my sword at Halcyon before me.
Chapter 248. Party 1. Assemble at the first floor plaza, now. Late in the evening, Izel's voice echoed loudly through the waiting room. It was just getting good, grumbled Gugu Khan, shaking his head as he slowly slipped out. Honestly, the timing was perfect. If they'd been 10 seconds later, I would have been sliced to pieces by Halcyon in the illusion void. Come to think of it, I had been so focused on mastering the engraving that I hadn't paid attention to anything else. The waiting room had finished its adjustments and the climb was progressing. Party 2 was responsible for the 50th floor segment. While we in Party 1 were absorbed in our own training, they were carrying out missions. Every evening, Nerissa would report on their progress. Edis, the leader of Party 2, had been replaced by Roderick, the middle-aged spearman who had once retired. He was a 3-star warrior summoned alongside Aloka during the initial climb. Although he'd stepped down from the assault team to serve as training camp director, he rejoined when there was a gap in personnel, acting on anything's orders, which he couldn't refuse. The 55th floor, huh? They're moving fast. I drained the water bottle next to my chair in one go and stood up. When I descended to the first floor plaza, I saw the rest of Party 1 already gathered. Opa, over here, over here. Jenna waved energetically when she saw me. The other members stood in line beside her. It's been hard to even see each other lately, especially you guys. You've been holed up in your rooms training non-stop. It's the first time we've all gathered since the 50th floor, right? Jenna squinted at me. We used to be in sync, the five of us. It's a natural change. Everyone has had their own tasks to focus on. Isn't that right, Senior? Velkist, leaning against the wall, smiled. He was no exception. Ever since he obtained the White Dragon's blood, he locked himself in the training room, completely absorbed. I just wanted one day of rest, Katio muttered, looking pale. He hadn't had a break, busy maintaining the airship. Hoo-hoo! Shishasha let out a strange laugh. She claimed she had found a unit of beastmen within the Priya Mercenary Corps, and she said she had evolved her engraving with an item from the Beast King. All of us in Party 1 had been busy with our own training, striving to get stronger. Opa, give us a briefing like always, please. There's not much to say. Come on, don't be like that. Annoying. Clicking my tongue, I began to explain. I already knew the basic details from Narissa. A small-scale mission requiring just one party. The airship couldn't be deployed. Compared to the 50th floor mission, which had required dozens of parties, this one felt almost laughably insignificant. And the difficulty? Party 2, which had been handling the climb in our place, had cleared the 54th floor without facing any serious resistance. Judging by the patterns so far, whenever we had an easy floor, a tough one was bound to follow. The sub-stages were always easy, while the boss stages were a different story. It had always been that way. They even gathered forces meant for the upper floors. The reason the 50th floor mission had been so difficult was that the challenge had been stacked. As long as you stay sharp, it shouldn't be too hard. But it's a boss stage, Jenna pointed out. That doesn't matter, I replied, stepping into the wide shimmering rift in time and space. I could hear the footsteps of the others following behind. Climb the tower and save the world. Main dungeon, current floor, 54. The mirror in the center of the room glowed brightly. I placed my hand on the hilt of the sword strapped to my belt. Soon I felt the familiar sensation of floating envelop my body. It was the signal that the mission had begun. Main dungeon, you are now on the 55th floor. The door will open in 10 seconds. Prepare yourself. Mission is being recorded. Playthrough data will be preserved. Finally, a chance to show results. Are you ready? Don't butt in. Haha. Gugu Khan laughed heartily in my ear, closing my eyes and letting the waves of light wash over me. When I opened them, let's give those bastards who dared invoke the goddess's name a taste of our spears. Charge! Bearded men charged across the plains. Their weapons and armor were mismatched, but they moved efficiently, cutting down any soldiers in their way. Despite their wild appearance, their movements were sharply honed for battle. Blood sprayed across the plains with every slash of their blades. Mercenaries, I thought, surveying the field. 8,473 human mercenaries, level unknown. Countless mercenaries marched under various banners, moving forward. All around us the sounds of battle roared. Shouts and screams filled the air, mingled with the relentless clang of weapons. The war had already begun. Oh, this... Jenna stepped forward, glancing around. We had landed in the middle of the battlefield. Floor 55. Mission type, Siege. Mission objective, seize the stronghold. Special objective, ensure the survival of NPC Priasis al-Ragnar and NPC Yoshua Girze. The mission objectives flashed before my eyes. A siege, huh? To the right, I spotted a towering wall that resembled a cliff. Nearly 10,000 mercenaries were advancing towards it. It looks like a civil war has broken out, Katio murmured, observing the battlefield. Though it seems pretty one-sided. I don't think we even need to step in. I raised an eyebrow. Katio was right. The mercenaries were pushing forward relentlessly, while the soldiers of the opposing church army were falling back, leaving a trail of corpses. This is awkward. We've always fought on the losing side, Jenna said, scratching her cheek. Taking a deep breath, I turned to Katio. Katio, can I leave this to you? Huh? What are you leaving to me? I want you to take charge of Party 1 while I'm gone. Watch the battle and jump in at the right moment. Don't do anything too risky. I have somewhere else I need to be. What? Wait, you want me to... Yep. I patted Katio on the shoulder and took off. The wind brushed past my face as I leaped several meters in a single bound.
There was a special objective. That meant that person must be here somewhere. I picked up my pace, drawing closer to where the two forces were clashing. Eventually, the mercenaries on the field started to notice me. What the hell is that? Why is he so fast? Is he heading this way? Is he an enemy? I stopped in my tracks. The mercenaries had just finished off a group of soldiers and were making sure none survived. The man who seemed to be their leader pointed a bloodied sword at me. Who the hell are you? What gives you the right to barge in like this? Where's Priya? Priya? Priyasis al Ragnar. I'm looking for her. The man's jaw dropped.
Yeah, you crazy bastard. How dare you speak the princess's name so casually? Are you an assassin sent by the church? Ha, you're dead meat. Consider this your funeral. I see. I hadn't expected them to cooperate. I'll just cut off an arm and drag you back, barked a bald mercenary as he swung his sword at me. Ugh! Crack! A quick jab sent him flying, blood spraying as he tumbled to the ground. This bastard is strong! Surround him! You won't make it to the princess alive! Soon enough, I was surrounded by mercenaries. I smiled faintly. She was a far cry from the neglected princess she had once been. Attack! 5 mercenaries charged at once. They were well-trained, veterans who had clearly seen real combat, but... Thud. Ah! What? What's going on? They collapsed as soon as I brushed them off with a light strike. I'd only tapped them on the chin so they wouldn't be in too much pain. The mercenaries tried to get back on their feet, but they kept falling, their limbs giving out beneath them. You won't get to her. Quick, send a message. Well, it couldn't be helped. They wouldn't know my face anyway. I flicked the blood off my hand. So, where's Priya? I asked again. Do you think we'd tell you? Even if we have to die? She's over there, isn't she? I said, glancing in the direction the mercenaries kept looking. What? How did you... You've been giving it away by constantly checking behind you. Honestly, it was obvious. Damn it! This can't be happening! We can't let you get to her! Can't let me? We'll see about that. I muttered as I began walking downhill toward the location they've been trying to protect. It took about 10 minutes to get there. In a remote corner of the plains, I spotted a luxurious tent standing out in contrast to the battlefield around it. The tent was made of pristine white silk with gold threads lacing its edges, a clear sign of importance. Well, this is just too obvious. Anyone could tell that someone important was inside. Clicking my tongue, I made my way toward the back of the tent. Wait. As I approached, a few mercenaries spotted me and reached for their whistles to call for reinforcements. Don't make this more annoying than it has to be, I muttered. Before they could blow the whistle, I knocked them all out with swift, non-lethal strikes. Then, without missing a beat, I continued toward the tent's rear. If I climb down that tall rock wall, I can avoid drawing too much attention. I jumped off the rock face, landing near the tent. Surprisingly, there weren't many guards posted around. I shrugged and proceeded toward the tent's entrance. Now then, I slowly rested my hand on the hilt of my sword. Before I could take another step, shing! Without a sound, a blade came slicing toward my forehead. I reacted instinctively, drawing my sword in an instant. Clang! Clang! The two blades clashed, sparks flying. If I had been even a second slower, the blade would have pierced my skull. "Who are you?" the attacker asked. The man stood across from me, sword at ready. His posture was perfect, a clear indication of his mastery. No wonder Priya hadn't posted any other guards. This guy was clearly skilled enough to handle most threats on his own. "Where'd you learn your swordsmanship? You're no amateur." "You are." The young man's eyes filled with confusion as he studied my face. "Wait, are you... what now? The sponsor? Sponsor?" At that moment, Yoshua's attention dropped, and he lowered his sword with a deep sigh. "I thought you were an assassin. I was ready to finally settle my debts, but then you disappeared without a word. Would it have killed you to let us know where you were going?" He scratched his head in frustration, his tone filled with exasperation. I couldn't help but chuckle at his reaction. "You've grown." "Of course I've grown. 10 years can change a person. But you haven't changed at all." Yoshua eyed me up and down with a crooked smile. The mercenary king? Huh.
Yoshua's appearance had changed dramatically from when he was younger. His once soft, boyish face was now marred with scars, and a thick beard covered his chin. The kid who had his face plastered on wanted posters had grown into a hardened man. "What happened after you disappeared? Princess Priya searched for you for ages." "I had my reasons. Besides, I'm here now, aren't I?" 3 years as soon to you?" I furrowed my brows. 3 years? "Yeah, it's been 3 years since we started the war against that treacherous prince. Do you know how much Princess Priya has been looking for you all this time? She cried herself to sleep almost every night. It's pitiful, really. This tent, she had it set up here because she thought you might show up one day. Even though it puts her at risk of being found by the enemy, she insisted, to make sure I could find her." "Of course." Yoshua grumbled under his breath. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. "She must have sensed you by now." Yoshua sheathed his sword and stepped back, allowing me to pass. From within the tent, I could hear faint footsteps approaching. 3 years. While I had been on missions and training during what felt like a short period of time to me, 3 entire years had passed here. "You haven't aged a day, young. It's a special condition." Yoshua chuckled, and I turned toward the tent. Taking a deep breath, I pushed aside the curtain and stepped inside.
Chapter 249. The inside of the tent was simple, a stark contrast to its grand exterior. A carpet made from wild animal skins covered the floor, and on top of it sat only a round table and an undecorated wooden chair. Priya stood next to the chair, her back to me. She had changed, I could tell at a glance. Her once short silver hair, which barely brushed her shoulders, now flowed down to her waist. Her slender frame had filled out, giving her the appearance of a proper young lady. She wore the same silver dress she had worn when we first met on the 15th floor. Back then, as a child, it looked out of place on her. I slowly approached Priya. "Sorry, I had some issues, so I'm a bit late." "I see. I tried to get here as quickly as I could, but it took me 3 years." Priya turned to face me, a soft smile on her lips. "If you were busy, it couldn't be helped. I'm just glad you're safe. While you were gone, I did my best to fulfill my role. What do you think? Am I not fitting of the title of princess now?" Priya lifted the hem of her dress and spun in a circle. She wasn't complaining. I had expected a few words of resentment, but there were none. Her appearance had changed, but her presence was much the same as when we were on the 50th floor. It was hard to believe what Yoshua had said, that she had spent her nights in tears waiting for me. 3 years. It's okay. I know you're alive, and that's enough. No need to apologize anymore. We're on a battlefield, after all. This isn't the time for trivial greetings. Even now, warriors are fighting for us." Priya said quietly, then laughed softly. "Well, a member of the royal family should know how to separate work from personal matters, right? You've grown a lot. If I hadn't, I wouldn't have been able to face you. I had to change. For me, for you, and for Taunia. Anyway, Han, welcome back. We are glad to have you." Priya gently wiped away the tears forming in her eyes and hardened her expression. I took a deep breath. 3 years really can change a person. It seems she had learned to control her emotions, or rather, she had been forced to change. If she hadn't, she wouldn't have been able to lead. "What's the situation outside? If there's a dangerous spot, I'll help." Priya pointed to the map on the table. The thick leather map showed the current state of the battlefield. It seemed to be enchanted as the images on the map moved continuously. "It looks like we're winning." The blue arrows on the left side of the map were pushing back the red arrows. "Yoshua, explain the situation to Han." "Yes, Your Highness." Yoshua entered the tent, bowed to me, and pointed to the map with the hilt of his sword. "Our situation is overwhelmingly favorable. The ratio of forces is more than 10 to 1. The church's army is in retreat, and the battle should be over in no more than 30 minutes. They're the wall, though, right? Our elite forces have already infiltrated it. Once the main army arrives, we'll open the gates from the inside. In other words, unfortunately, it seems you won't be needed in this battle, young. Feel free to have a nice chat with the princess. The battle is practically over.
Is that so? I don't need to go out? Yoshua nodded. I crossed my arms. There were times when missions cleared themselves without the hero doing anything. Was this one of those missions where we just coast through? I hadn't expected to encounter such a stage in Townia. Are you sure there's no difficult enemy to deal with or anything like that? The elite forces of the church fled a long time ago. What's left are just remnants. I see. It's baffling. Every mission I had undertaken until now had been a series of extreme situations. But now the battle was clearing itself without me even having to lift a finger. Was the impact of the 50th floor that significant? There were thousands of monsters. Still, it was surprising. I almost felt like if I didn't rush out, I'd get a mission failure message. Yoshua, I'll go outside and encourage the soldiers. Can you entertain Han in the meantime? As you command. We'll finish our conversation later. Priya smiled at me and left the tent. The sound of multiple footsteps suggested that more guards had joined her. Now only Yoshua and I remained in the tent. This is something. The situation had completely changed. I had always fought under unfavorable conditions. So, you said the prince was involved in this civil war? What's the overall situation? The prince is entrenched in the imperial capital, and the church is holding its ground in the holy city. If we capture these two regions, the prince's forces will be eliminated from Townia. This is the last fortress standing before the holy city. It's safe to say we've practically won. I scratched my back. It wasn't just Kriya who had changed. Yoshua continued explaining what had happened since the battle in the forest. After the 50th floor, the mercenaries who had been scattered among different factions had rallied under the name of the princess. It was only natural. Priya had erased the eggs from existence while radiating a blinding light. They had witnessed a scene straight out of a myth. Even though the Empire and the Church had put a bounty on the princess, anyone who mattered knew the truth. Those bastards did nothing while the Empire was being attacked by monsters. Well, at first my decision was based on returning a favor, a single gold coin, but over time I realized that the only one who could save Townia was the princess. I used to think we didn't need an emperor, but things have changed. Then he looked at me with a serious expression. When this civil war ends, I plan to crown the princess as the new ruler of this land. The old noble families and the church have caused too many problems. It's time for new blood. Don't you think new wine should be put in new wineskins? Yoshua's gaze was unwavering. It was clear that he was sincere. I don't know where you're from or what you really are, but I'm grateful that you formed a connection with the princess. The conversation is getting ahead of itself. The fight's not over. That's true. It was difficult for me alone, but now that you're here, young, I feel relieved. Lucky me. Yoshua laughed heartily. His cheeky attitude was just like he was when he was a kid. Then he unfolded another map on the table. It was a full map of Townia. The areas that the princess's forces had already conquered were marked in blue. All the regions except for the imperial capital in the center and the holy city in the east were covered in blue. This is the last fortress before the holy city. I sat on the wooden chair and rested my chin on my hand. The civil war had progressed much further than I expected. The war was nearing the end.
The only bosses left are the Saintess and the Prince. It seemed the two of them were isolated. At least, we wouldn't have to face them both at once. Since we were near the church's base, the Saintess would be our first opponent. If I kill them both, would Townia's scenario end? Probably not. The main course was still waiting. Even if we took care of all the monsters, it would all be for nothing if we didn't defeat the Prince. That guy was a monster who could bend the laws of physics, just like Elcid. The reason I accepted the contract with Gugu-Khan was to defeat him. According to Yoshua, the prince had holed up in the capital after the 50th floor battle, and hadn't been seen since. If he had intervened, the tide of the civil war would have been different. It was a mystery why he hadn't shown up. Yoshua continued his chatter, telling me how he rose to the title of mercenary king with that single gold coin. Apparently, he had started managing famous mercenaries who explored dungeons. Not that I was particularly interested. Suddenly, loud cheers erupted from outside the tent. Yoshua muttered under his breath, "It seems the occupation is complete." "Already?" I glanced at the tent's entrance, which was covered by a curtain. "Stage clear."
Han, 5-star. Jenna, 5-star. Velkist, 5-star. Kishasha, 5-star. Katio, 5-star. Level up. Reward, 100,000 gold. MVP, Velkist, 5-star. There was no longer any doubt. As Yoshua had said, this mission could be cleared without us doing anything. Seeing that Velkist had been named MVP, it seemed like he had done most of the heavy lifting while I wasn't around. What kind of boss stage was this? I even felt a bit disappointed. Long live the princess! Long live the empire! The cheers continued outside. The tent's entrance opened, and Priya walked in. It's over? This battle is finished. But, Yoshua muttered, the church's elite forces are holed up in the holy city. Along with soldiers, there will likely be monsters as well. From here on, we must be prepared for casualties. The saintist will appear then? She's quite troublesome. Don't worry, I'll handle her. I leaned back in my chair. I could now deal with her troublesome evil eye. All that was left was to take her head. I examined my body. A white light slowly enveloped me. It was the signal for my return. Wait a moment. I still have more to say. Priya quickly stepped toward me. I shook my head. It's fine. We'll meet soon. But you said that and then left me for 3 years. Now you're leaving me again. Yoshua cleared his throat and quietly exited the tent. Priya approached me with a pleading look. She must have waited quite a while. I smiled faintly. She had finally returned to the little girl I remembered. This time it's for real. I'll be back within a week. Really? Yeah. Since the next mission is the assault on the holy city, it won't be long before I see Priya again. I have something to tell you. You must return so I can say it. Didn't you say we should keep work and personal matters separate? After the holy city falls, we'll take a break. I don't mind then. Promise me. Priya extended her pinky finger toward me. Do I really have to do this? I hesitated for a moment, but then locked my finger with hers. Even if it wasn't intentional, I'd kept her waiting for over 3 years. I'll be waiting for you, Han. Let's meet again. As Priya's smiling face filled my vision, the light engulfed me completely. Wow, that gave me chills. In the rift of time and space, Jenna hugged herself, shivering in excitement. Is this a dream? It's crazy that it ended like this. When there are tough missions, there should also be easy ones, right? It ended easily this time, but next time we'll have to work hard. Don't slack off on training. Yes, sir. I'll head out first. Good work, everyone. Jenna saluted me enthusiastically, before leaving the rift. Next, Katio and Kishasha followed. However, Velkist remained silently by my side. You met her, didn't you, Senior? Who? That princess. It's not what you think. I was just assessing the situation. You might think so, but she might feel differently. I haven't talked much with her, but even from afar, I could tell. Start keeping your distance. You'll only find it troublesome later. Velkist finished speaking and slowly exited. I closed my eyes. Troublesome later. For me, only a year had passed, but for Priya, it had been 10 years. The flow of time was different. More than that, after I finished climbing, what a dilemma. I couldn't decide now. For the moment, I needed to focus on the next mission. I clicked my tongue and began to walk away.
Chapter 250. After clearing the 55th floor, anything didn't loosen the reins. The very next day, we moved on to the 56th floor. Our first party took the lead, easily clearing the substages focused on hunting and exploration, while gathering information about the 60th floor. The 60th floor would be the siege of the Holy City, Delhive. Located at the southmost point of the Taunia continent, this massive city was also the sacred ground for Tel Ikar Church, the largest religious organization wielding influence across the entire empire. Capturing this place meant severing the lifeline of the church that had tormented heroes for so long. On the 59th floor, I got in touch with Yoshua and gathered a basic outline of the Holy City siege. 3 critical pieces of information stood out. First, Delhive itself was a fortress city with defenses rivaling those of the imperial capital. Second, All the church's forces, including the Holy Maidens and the Holy Knights, had gathered there. Monsters had also joined the church's forces, with their estimated numbers exceeding 10,000. Even the Imperial Princess's army, which had easily overpowered the church's forces so far, would find these conditions challenging. Lastly, the leader of Tel Ikar Church, the blind saintess Irene, possessed a mysterious power. I was all too familiar with it. I had faced it personally on the 50th floor. Her left eye violated the heavens, and her right eye devoured the earth, with abilities to seal skills, engravings, and senses. She was beyond troublesome. It won't work on me twice, though. After mastering the Blackblood Dragon, my abilities had grown exponentially. Moreover, I had prepared countermeasures just in case. If the Saintess dared to use the same tricks, she would have to prepare for her own death. In the strategy room on the 4th floor of the waiting area, Roderick stared down at the map on the table and muttered, "So we're working with the Imperial Princess's army." Once a retired training camp director, Roderick had returned to lead the party after Edis's death. "What's our role?" "Our role is aerial assaults on key points using airships." I pointed to the center of the map. It depicted a circular city surrounded by 5 thick layers of walls. In the middle of the city stood a massive temple that resembled a towering skyscraper. It was an eagle's eye view of the fortress city, Delhive. The Imperial Princess's forces will take the ground assault. Once the operation starts, the Taunia raid team will break through the aerial defenses and infiltrate inside the city walls. From there, we'll cause chaos by sweeping them from the inside. I gestured toward the outer walls, and Roderick, with a grim expression, looked up at me. "What about you?" "We'll move separately. We're going deeper in." I pointed to the temple at the center of the city. "That's where the church's key figures will be. We're going to wipe them out." "Understood." Roderick gave a bitter smile. "Didn't expect to be back on the battlefield. I wonder if I can still pull my weight." In all honesty, this man couldn't fully fill Edis's shoes. He could only cover part of the gap. The rest would have to be handled by the master. We were past the days of cheering from the sidelines. It was time to expect more from him. "Well then, I'll brief the other party leaders. Thanks for your work." "Don't mention it." Roderick trudged out of the strategy room. I stayed seated staring at the map. The operation begins tomorrow. The current time was late at night. Anything had logged out after completing her final preparations. I had just finished my tasks as well. A dark crimson bolt of lightning sparked from my right hand. As I clenched my fist, the lightning disappeared as if crumbling away. Whenever I had time, I trained with Halcyon in my mental world. More than a year passed in that time frame. At first, this power felt foreign, but now I could wield it as if it were my own. "Yurnet," I muttered quietly, and the air in front of me distorted as a fog in the shape of a person flickered into view. "Yes, Master." "How's the investigation going?" "It's in the final stages. By the time you return from the 60th floor, it should be complete." "That's a relief. I thought it would take years." "It's your command, Master. I couldn't afford to neglect it." Yurnet chuckled, covering her mouth. She was still investigating the El Set incident. From start to finish, there were far too many unclear points in the case. It was too suspicious to let it be. "By the way, Master, I noticed you evolved your engraving." "I did." Yurnet's shadow crept closer. "I always welcome your growth, Master. However, this engraving seems less than ideal. Perhaps you should reconsider." "Reconsider? What do you mean?" "It might be wise to look for another engraving. The risk posed by your engraving is too great, especially if something unexpected happens and the Taunia Empire falls. For example, if the master of the waiting area quits." "I've already made the contract. How could I change it now? That doesn't make sense." "If you command it." Even if it's possible, I won't do it. I'm sticking with Taunia till the end. It's too late to back out now." "But," "No buts. Don't bring this up again. This is my decision." Yurnet fell silent. In exchange for the power from Halcyon, I had agreed to clear Taunia's missions. Even if the contract lost its binding force, I intended to uphold it. "Don't worry, I can take care of myself. I can't keep relying on you guys forever." "Master, I'll contact you when I get back." The fog dispersed. "I'm different from that woman.
I don't break promises. No matter what the outcome, I will see it through to the end. I gripped the handle of my sword. Clang! The blade of Difrost scraped against the sheath with a metallic sound. The next evening, Anything assembled a party for the 60th floor attack. 4 airships would be used for the operation. 3 of them were assigned to the first raid, led by the second party, while the last one was for our first party. Warning, this mission is a medium-size operation requiring 10 parties. If your party is short on members, use paid or free summons to recruit more heroes. This mission requires airships for a special operation. Gather resources and blueprints to craft airships. Tips: you can form a raid by combining parties. Tips: you can form a fleet by combining airships. As the warning message appeared, Isekai reached out and a massive mirror appeared from a dimensional rift. Climb the tower and save the world. Main dungeon, current floor 59. The launch command had already been given. The giant mirror began to glow and the lead airship slowly rose into the air. Main dungeon, current challenge floor 60. The gate will open in 10 seconds. Prepare yourselves. Mission is being recorded. Your playthrough will be saved. Our airship, the Lucette, began moving toward the mirror. I leaned against the railing and stretched out my right hand. Isekai.
Isel appeared, sharply dressed in a black suit and adjusting her sunglasses as she approached me. "What would you like this time, sir?" "Something clean and heavy." "I'll get right on it." Isel twirled her right hand and stardust burst forth, revealing a white cloth-wrapped object. I ran my hand over it. "This texture, model 137? Yep, ebony wood with solid steel inside, clean and heavy, just like you asked. Good choice." I smirked and handed the object back to Isel, who bowed and disappeared. At that moment, Kashasha tilted her head. "What are you doing?" "It's just a little energy recharge." "Energy recharge?" She gave me a strange look. It was just a way to clear my head before the mission. "Warning! Warning! Warning!" Before the light even faded, a triple warning message appeared, indicating the high difficulty level. This wasn't going to be as easy as the 55th floor. The objective window popped up. Floor 60. Mission type, Siege. Mission objective, capture the holy city Delhive. Cold wind brushed against my cheeks. I squinted as the Lucette came to a stop hundreds of meters above the ground. Below us, the vast city of Delhive stretched out, with a massive temple at its center and high, thick walls surrounding it. Soldiers swarmed atop the walls. 7,661 church soldiers, level unknown. 2,174 church knights, level unknown. 3,739 corrupted monster army, level unknown. Yoshua hadn't been exaggerating about the sheer number of forces gathered. "There's so many," I heard Roderick sigh. "We've got a lot of people too," I replied over the comms, looking down below. 21,548 human mercenaries, level unknown. The entire plain was filled with soldiers, a massive army that didn't even fit in the open field. They carried mercenary banners, shouting as they charged toward the fortress. Siege engines like ladders, catapults, and battering rams followed behind them. "Master, a battle between 2 factions has begun. Help the Imperial Princess's army defeat the Church army. Bring peace back to Townia." A red arrow appeared in the sky, marking Anything's tactical formation. "Han." A familiar voice whispered in my ear. It was Priya, sending a magical communication after spotting us. I smiled and muttered back, "We'll settle this after the fight." "Got it. After the battle, then." I cut the comms and looked ahead. The other airships were moving toward the fortress, following Anything's orders. "Shall we go too?" Jenna asked me, looking at me. I shook my head. "You guys go ahead." "Huh? Why?" "Looks like they need help down there." I shifted my gaze toward the city gate. 13 corrupted Black Knight level 71. Black-armored knights wielding great swords were slaughtering mercenaries indiscriminately. Despite being only a dozen or so, they were severely slowing down the advance. "Can't we just ignore them? The gate will be breached anyway." "We need to minimize casualties if we want to make use of them later. Meet me in front of the temple." I stepped onto the railing. "Wait, we're in the sky!" I leapt off the airship. The wind howled as it slammed into my body. The ground was about 200 meters below. The planes grew larger and larger as I descended. "Halcyon!" Calling so early? I snapped my fingers. Crackle! Dark crimson lightning surged across my body. I landed silently. From 200 meters in the air, I touched down on the ground without feeling any impact. What the hell is that thing? Gah! Thud. A severed human leg dropped at my feet. Blood spurted from the stump like a fountain, staining the nearby ground red. They don't have a chance. The Black Knights were roaring as they swung their great swords in the middle of the plain. Already 100 corpses lay scattered around them. Who are you? How did you come from the sky? Move. I pushed aside the man blocking my way. Hyung! Yoshua? Yes, I knew you'd come. I'm communicating via magic. Who are these guys? They're the elite soldiers of the church I mentioned. They've drastically slowed down our advance. I see. They were swinging their 100-kilogram great swords like they were nothing more than twigs. No normal human could stop them. Broken armor, shattered weapons, and dismembered bodies lay scattered on the ground. One of the Black Knights, having locked eyes with me, approached. You're the goddess's dog. Goddess's dog? Traitor! Traitor! Grrrr! Whoosh! The Black Knight brought down his greatsword. Huh! Worthless insect, Halcyon murmured coldly. I raised my right hand. Crackle! Dark crimson lightning enveloped the Black Knight. In that instant, I clenched my hand. Compression! Crack! Blood and flesh splattered everywhere. When I fully clenched my fist, the Black Knight, now crumpled like a broken doll, fell to the ground. Calling me a traitor, that's a bit harsh, don't you think? Kill this! There was no need to even draw my sword. I kicked off the ground and lightly touched the approaching Black Knights. Traitor! Then I swung my hand downward. Crack! Like they had been crushed under a massive press, the 12 Black Knights were flattened into the ground.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video. Have a suggestion? Let me know in the comments.